what I said earlier too, which is like, when we talk about the larger picture over time, we're discerning our personal vocation, right? And it really takes time because I think there's a lot of living and also there's a lot of letting things happen. Sometimes a lot of things happen that feel like they're interruptions. They seem to get in the way of us trying to get on with trying to figure out our vocation, right? They're things that happen where needed and all that. But that's where faith comes in, that even though we do not know why, this is part of the journey, this is part of the deeper journey, and we surrender, we trust, right? When enough time has passed and we have been living this way, like with discernment, trying to be faithful in responding and in all that, all the struggling and the wrestling. I think when enough time has passed, I mean, look back, you realize that all that was also is also a big part of helping us see more clearly our call. To give you the little example, I guess, before we close for tonight, recently, I know I've been starting to talk, I've been talking and write a lot more about trauma for some time, but recently it's just kind of like hit me. How did I get here? Like, I never, all this time when I was younger with praying about my personal vocation, and then I narrowed it down to spiritual formation. And then eventually it was like integrated spiritual formation because human formation is important and all that. And then now suddenly I feel like actually trauma is a really big piece that I don't know. I didn't see coming. I really didn't see coming. And I'm realizing now, I think it's quite an important piece of my call. I'm just realizing it actually this week. I don't know. Sometimes I'm a little dense because we all, it just accumulates, and suddenly it hits me. And so the a big part of my suffering comes from family, and it's very dysregulating, and it really impacts my capacity to do anything else, really. And so I really hate it. It's so tiring, and so much of my energy then has to go to my own healing and my own integration and all that, which means I can't do as much, whether it's creating content or all that. And sometimes that frustrates me because I feel like I'm supposed to be building towards something, right? Like I'm creating something. I want to serve the Lord, but all this, it always feels like it's taking away. Well, in a sense, it does. It feels like it definitely takes away life from me. It's life sapping, right? But then I realize now with this new realization that I'm very convicted to help people recognize trauma in their life and why that's important, because it actually really gets in the way of their self-understanding, in knowing themselves, loving themselves, and even loving God. And even this whole thing about discerning vocation, which I've always felt was really important. If they don't understand how trauma impacts them and they don't recognize how important integration is, there will always be this huge handicap. Process of discerning personal vocation is the way that I'm experiencing it. Life, it's part of life, and there's so much of it that you don't like, and there's so much of it that it doesn't make sense. So that's kind of like how, like that's connecting, plus the stuff, the actual stuff is what we have to live through, the hard stuff, the difficult things, the things that often that really don't feel life-giving. It's not just beyond our lifetime, in like, for us beyond our lifetime, but even in time and space and on earth, we're part of a web across centuries. When we talk about the communion of saints, each person's vocation and life and everything is it's part of a larger whole. And it requires us, in a sense, to be exactly who we are, which is why I think it's so important to help people. That's my vocation, to come to be able to accept and embrace who they are. But trauma gets in the way of that. We reject who we are so often. We rather be somebody else. We think we are not good enough and all that, because I think the most powerful thing for God's kingdom, if everyone is exactly who we are, right? Like St. Catherine of Siena said, be God who created you to be, and you'll set the world on fire. What better way to, attack God's plan, I suppose, than to make everyone feel shame somehow or doubt the goodness of exactly who we are.